Imagine standing 25 miles away from an airport, about 40 kilometers, roughly the distance from London to Reading, and being woken up at home by a single airplane's engine running on the tarmac. Imagine the shockwave being powerful enough to knock a fully grown crew chief flat on the floor of a parked transport plane 200 yards away, about 180 meters. Sounds unbelievable, right? So today, we're going to talk about the loudest aircraft ever built, the Republic X F-84, better known as the Thunder Screech. The Republic X F-84 Thunder Screech was an experimental American fighter aircraft built by Republic Aviation in Farmingdale, New York. Only 2 examples were ever constructed. Serial numbers 51-1, 7059 and 51-1. 7060. First flight on July 22, 1955 at Edwards Air Force Base, California. Last flight on October 9, 1956. 12 test flights total over 15 months. 11 of them ended in emergency landings. The 2 airframes together accumulated less than 7 hours of flight time. Officially nicknamed the Thunder Screech by its test crews. Unofficially called something far worse, the mighty ear banger. Republic predicted it would be the fastest propeller-driven aircraft ever built. It never even came close. But what it actually delivered was something genuinely extraordinary. The loudest aircraft humanity has ever produced. 2 prototypes, 12 flights, 15 months. Why on earth was this thing ever built? This whole story starts with the United States Navy. By June 1945, just months after the end of World War II, the Navy had a problem. Early jet engines accelerated slowly, needed long runways, burned huge amounts of fuel, none of which is great when you're trying to launch fighters from aircraft carrier decks barely 1,000 feet long. The Navy wanted a single-seat carrier fighter, capable of jet-class speed, but able to take off without catapult assistance. Propellers accelerate much faster than early jets, so the obvious answer was to put a propeller on a jet-style airframe. Combine the speed of jets with the acceleration of props. Best of both worlds. Or so they thought. The US Air Force liked the idea too. Their Wright Air Development Center became the key sponsor. Republic Aviation, the company behind the legendary P-47 Thunderbolt and the F-84 Thunderjet, won the contract under Project 3347. Their proposal was internally designated the AP-46, officially designated the XF-84H. 2 prototypes were ordered, carrier fighter with jet speed and prop acceleration. So how did Republic actually design this thing? Republic took the existing F-84F Thunderstreak airframe as a starting point, then modified almost everything. The original Wright J65 jet engine was ripped out. In its place went a brand new Allison XT40-A1 turboprop engine. Located behind the cockpit, not in the nose, connected to a propeller mounted on the nose via an 18-foot driveshaft, about 5.5 meters long, running directly under the pilot's seat. The propeller itself was a custom-designed 3-bladed unit, 12 feet in diameter, about 3.7 meters across, roughly the width of 2 parking spaces side by side. Made by Aero Products. Variable pitch design. Thrust was controlled not by speeding up or slowing down the prop, but purely by changing the angle of the blades. Anti-torque measures included a T-shaped tail to lift the elevator above the prop wash, a small triangular aerovane behind the cockpit canopy, differential flap deflection on the left and right wings, and the left wing root air intake mounted 1 foot further forward than the right intake, about 30 centimeters of offset, required just to keep the aircraft flying straight against the enormous torque. 18-foot driveshaft, 12-foot prop, turboprop where the cockpit used to be. So, what was actually inside that engine? The Allison XT40-A1 was genuinely peculiar. Not 1 engine, but 2. Allison took 2 of their existing T-38 power sections, bolted them side by side, ran both into a single common reduction gearbox. Each T-38 had a 17-stage axial compressor and a 4-stage turbine. Rated output 5,850 horsepower, about 4,360 kilowatts, spinning at almost 40,000 revolutions per minute internally. And then there was the propeller, aero products. Three-blade prop spun at 3,000 RPM constantly. Engine start-to-engine shutdown, no variable speed. With a 12-foot diameter, the outer 24 to 30 inches of each blade traveled at Mach 1.18, even when the aircraft was sitting motionless on the ramp. The Thunderscreech also had something genuinely unique. A factory-installed afterburner, making it the only turboprop aircraft ever built with one. Supposed to provide an additional 7,200 horsepower of jet thrust, only ever lit during ground tests, never used in flight. Aircraft was already terrifying enough. 2 engines into 1 gearbox into a supersonic prop. So what about the actual speed numbers? Quick favor before we get to the speed numbers. If you're enjoying this deep dive, tap subscribe. We've got a fresh aviation feature every single week. Crew of 1. Length 51 feet 5 inches, about 15.67 meters, longer than the standard F-84F by a full 8 feet. Roughly 2.5 meters of extra length, almost entirely due to that massive nose-mounted propeller spinner. Wingspan 33 feet 5 inches, about 10.18 meters, around the wingspan of a modern Cessna Caravan turboprop. Height 15 feet 4 inches, about 4.67 meters. Empty weight 17,892 pounds, roughly 8,115 kilograms, around 4,000 pounds heavier than the original F-84 F8, mostly because of that monstrous coupled Allison engine. Gross weight 27,046 pounds, about 12,267 kilograms, range over 2,000 miles, about 3,200 kilometers. Service ceiling 40,000 feet, about 12,192 meters. Rate of climb 5,000 feet per minute, about 1,524 meters per minute. Genuinely impressive numbers. The Thunderscreech also pioneered something else. It was the first aircraft ever to feature a retractable and extendable ram air turbine, a small windmill-driven generator that swung out into the airstream automatically if the main engine failed, providing emergency electrical and hydraulic power to keep the aircraft controllable for landing. Same concept used on commercial airliners. Thunderscreech invented it in 1955. The Allison T-40 engine itself weighed roughly 2,500 pounds dry, about 1,113 kilograms. Length of the engine assembly with both T-38 power sections came to over 13 feet, about 4.24 meters, stretched across the entire center of the aircraft. Carrier class range and a 40,000-foot ceiling. So what about the noise everyone keeps talking about? This is where the story gets genuinely disturbing, because the outer 2 feet of those propeller blades were always traveling faster than sound. The Thunderscreech generated a continuous wall of sonic booms, not a single sonic boom like a jet breaking the sound barrier. A constant stream of them, pulsing out from the propeller hundreds of yards in every direction, permanently, as long as the engine was running. During ground tests at Edwards Air Force Base in July 1955, the base started receiving noise complaints from homes 25 miles away, about 40 kilometers. Some sources put the range at 45 miles, about 72 kilometers. Imagine being woken up by a stationary aircraft on a runway in another county. Ground crews working near the aircraft suffered genuine physical injury. The shockwave knocked a crew chief flat on the floor of a parked C-47 Skytrain transport plane. That man was severely incapacitated during just 30 minutes of engine run. People standing in the prop wash reported intense nausea, raging headaches, and ringing in the ears. Many vomited. Some fainted on the tarmac. Reports describe partial deafness lasting hours afterwards. One nearby engineer reportedly suffered a full seizure from the noise alone. Communication between ground crew became impossible. Signal flags and visual hand signals replaced all verbal commands within several hundred yards of the aircraft. Radios were useless. Ground crews picked up an unofficial second nickname during this period, the mighty ear banger. Guinness World Records eventually classified the thunder screech as the loudest aircraft ever flown, a title it still holds today, 70 years later. Modern audiologists who have studied the surviving audio recordings estimate the sound pressure level near the aircraft probably exceeded 180 decibels, about the volume of a Saturn V rocket launch heard from 1 mile away. Standard ear protection of the era offered roughly 30 decibels of reduction, completely inadequate for what the thunder screech was producing. No formal scientific measurements were ever made at the time, which is why the Guinness entry carries that specific caveat to this day. Seizures, vomiting, sonic booms for 40 kilometers. So what about the actual safety record in the air? Catastrophic. Across 12 test flights, 11 ended in emergency landings. The two prototypes accumulated a total flight time of 6 hours and 40 minutes. Average flight time per sortie was around 30 minutes. Average distance between major mechanical failures was even shorter. Test pilot Hank Baird flew 11 of the 12 sorties. He was Republic's senior experimental pilot, genuinely fearless. He kept reporting that above 450 knots indicated airspeed. The propeller governor would begin to surge, causing the entire aircraft to violently rotate left. Baird described the handling as snaking, losing longitudinal stability, becoming progressively harder to control. The vibration problem was even worse. 18 feet of high-speed drive shaft running directly under the pilot's seat, connected to a 12-foot prop that was constantly hitting sonic harmonics. The whole airframe shook so violently that pilots reported difficulty reading the instruments. Mechanical components fatigued and failed at an alarming rate. Hydraulic systems sprung leaks. Nose gear refused to extend on landing. Test pilot Lynn Hendricks flew the thunder screech exactly once. After landing, he climbed out, walked over to Republic's project team, and delivered his now legendary verdict. Quote, "You aren't big enough, and there aren't enough of you to get me in that thing again." End quote. He kept his word, never went near the aircraft a second time. The engine also took 30 full minutes to warm up before flight, so the idea of a combat-ready carrier interceptor was already absurd. Pilots would still be waiting for the engine to reach operating temperature while enemy aircraft were already overhead. By September 1956, the US Air Force had seen enough. The program was officially cancelled. Total cost of the program has been estimated at around $15 million in 1956 money, roughly $170 million today, for 12 flights totaling less than 7 hours of airborne time, about $2.5 million per flight hour in modern equivalent. The most expensive turboprop test program of the entire decade. Per flight hour, possibly the most expensive aviation program of the entire Cold War. 11 emergency landings out of 12 flights. So where did that famous Guinness speed record come from? Here's where the thunder screech story gets genuinely complicated. Republic predicted the aircraft would reach 670 miles per hour, about 1,078 kilometers per hour, around Mach 0.9. That would have made it the fastest propeller-driven aircraft ever built. The 1997 Guinness Book of World Records officially listed the thunder screech at 623 miles per hour, about 1,003 kilometers per hour. Mach 0.83, recorded as the fastest propeller-driven aircraft in history. But that record is disputed. The National Museum of the United States Air Force lists the actual top speed achieved as 520 miles per hour, about 837 kilometers per hour, Mach 0.7, and aviation historians at HistoryNet flatly claim the aircraft never exceeded 450 miles per hour in any sortie, about 724 kilometers per hour. Even taking the lowest credible figure, the thunder screech held the unofficial record as the fastest single-engine propeller-driven aircraft from 1956 until 1989, when a modified Grumman F-8F Bearcat called Rare Bear hit 528 miles per hour at the Reno Air Races, about 850 kilometers per hour. So, depending which speed figure you believe, the thunder screech either held the record for 33 years or never really earned earned it in the first place. Aviation historians remain genuinely divided. The Soviet Tupolev Tu-95 Bear is officially listed by current Guinness as the fastest propeller-driven aircraft in production form, with a cruise of 575 miles per hour. Disputed record, controversial speed, 12 catastrophic flights. So, what actually went wrong? Pretty much everything. Vibration from the propeller and driveshaft caused continuous mechanical failures. Pitch gearing mechanisms inside the prop hub jammed repeatedly. Hydraulic systems failed under harmonic stress from the supersonic tips. Nose gear refused to deploy reliably. Engine fires occurred. Oil leaks were constant. One legendary T-40 engine failure during a ground test could only be shut down by destroying the compressor. Mechanics threw buckets of nuts and bolts down the air intake just to stop an engine running on a major oil leak that no normal shutdown procedure could halt. Pure machinery horror. Aerodynamic problems compounded everything. Aircraft snaked above 450 knots, lost longitudinal stability, required constant pilot correction just to stay level. Torque from one massive propeller was so violent that differential flaps and offset intakes were never enough. By the time the Thunder Screech was cancelled in September 1956, jet engines had advanced rapidly. The North American F-100 Super Sabre was already exceeding the sound barrier in level flight. Suddenly, the whole concept of a turboprop fighter looked obsolete. Navy had already lost interest. Air Force followed suit. The Douglas A-2D Skyshark, using the same Allison T-40 engine, was also cancelled around this period, as were the Lockheed Pogo and Convair Pogo vertical takeoff turboprops, all sharing the same unreliable power plant. By 1957, the Allison T-40 program was effectively dead. Cancelled by progress, not just by problems. So what happened to the two prototypes? One of the two prototypes was unceremoniously scrapped. 1-1-7060, the second airframe, only completed 4 flights before being mothballed. Its Allison T-40 engine was reportedly removed and reused to support testing of the Douglas A-2D Skyshark, another doomed turboprop program that was cancelled around the same time. The first prototype, 51-17059, had a more interesting fate. After cancellation, it was sent to Meadows Field Airport in Bakersfield, California. There, it served as a gate guardian for decades, mounted on a suspension rod above the ground, dramatically posed as if mid-flight. Its propeller spun by a small installed electric motor for visual effect. In 1992, volunteers from the Ohio Air National Guard removed the aircraft from its mounting, restored it to museum display condition, and transferred it to the National Museum of the United States Air Force at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, where it sits today in the Research and Development Gallery. Only surviving Thunder Screech on the planet. Exhibit displays the original Allison T-40 engine assembly alongside the airframe, so visitors can actually see the bizarre coupled engine layout that caused so much trouble. Sitting silently 70 years after it last terrified anyone within 25 miles. One scrapped, one in a museum. So what's the verdict on this thing? The Thunder Screech was a magnificent failure, a kind of failure that only 1950s American aerospace engineering could produce. A genuinely brilliant idea pushed past the point of physical reasonableness. Combine jet speed with prop acceleration. Build a supersonic propeller to compensate for the speed gap. Then bolt the resulting machine onto a fighter airframe and hope for the best. On paper, it should have worked. In practice, the supersonic propeller turned the aircraft into the loudest object in human history, made it physically dangerous to be near, and vibrated itself into mechanical failure every single time it flew. Was the Thunder Screech the fastest propeller-driven aircraft ever built? Probably not. Despite what 1997 Guinness claimed, was it the loudest? Without any doubt at all. Did it represent the absolute outer limit of what propeller technology could achieve? Absolutely yes. After the Thunder Screech, nobody seriously attempted to build a supersonic propeller fighter again. Jet engines simply got too good too fast. But for one brief moment in 1955, Republic Aviation proved that some engineering ideas should never have left the drawing board, and gave the world an aircraft so loud it could be heard in the next county. So, if you enjoyed this one, go watch our deep dive on the Fokker D7. Another aircraft so terrifying the world had to write it into a peace treaty. Which experimental aircraft would you fly in? Drop it in the comments. Thanks for hanging out, and subscribe so you never miss anything.